All right, so our final individual paperwork assignment is going to be timesheets. So here's the assignment. So the first thing I want you to do is just download this template file, this Excel timesheet template. I have done the hard part for you. So what's the deal with timesheets? Well, the main concern here is that in the real world, people's time will cost you money. I know we're in this like weird alternate universe here right now where people are paying for the privilege of using their time. But outside of this alternate universe, it works the other way around. That people tend to not give away their time. They tend to prefer to be compensated financially for their time, which is reasonable. And that's the way you should do things. You should pay people when they do work for you. And you should expect people to pay you when you do work for them. But given that people's time will cost you money, there are probably going to be times in your life when you are the person in charge of getting the people and paying them or making sure that they get paid. And that will usually involve a budget. A lot of places you're going to have what's called a labor budget. There will be an amount of money that is set aside to pay the people to do their work. I personally try very hard to. There's two kinds of people in the world. There's people who stay within the budget, and there's people who don't. Okay? Some people have just kind of, developed this strategy of I'm just going to get the job done and I'll go over budget because I know that the production manager has contingency anyway. And so there are people I know that are just like constantly going over budget all the time because they know that they can and they get away with it. I am not one of those people. I'm the kind of person that I don't think I've ever gone over budget in my entire life on anything. Because I just think that's not a cool thing to do. I think that part of the battle of being successful in the things that we do and that we're teaching you to do is you want to become the kind of person that other people want to work with. Right? That's it. Whether you know everything there is to know about sound is actually of lesser importance. People will gladly take someone who isn't as skilled if they're just nice and easy to work with and reliable, and that is just how the world works. And so I always want to be the kind of person that people want to work with, and one of the ways that I do that is by never going over budget, because that's super annoying to production managers and project managers and people, and managing directors and things like that, and producers and things. They hate that. Yeah, they plan for it. They plan for people to do that because they know it's gonna. Because a lot of times they're guessing, right? They guess with their budgets. It's an educated guess. Sometimes they're right, sometimes they're wrong, and good managers and producers and things will build in a little contingency for dealing with when that's done. But I've just decided, you know what? I want to be known as the guy that is always under budget. Like they never have to worry about that with me. They always know that no matter what the budget is, I'm never going to come and ask them for more money. I'm always just going to get the job done within the amount of money I have, and even if that means I have to make compromises and cut things and get the director to cut things and whatever. Like that's just how I prefer to work. And I think that makes the people who have to come up with that money want to work with me more because they know they're never going to have to worry about me coming and asking them for more money. I might come to them and say, hey, I could do a lot better job for you if you gave me, if you set aside more money for this. And when they say, yeah, but we didn't, okay, fine. Well, that's fine. I'll get this done within the amount of money you said. I just want you to know that I'm capable of doing better work for you than what you're going to get out of me. But because I can only do so much with $5. But I will give you the best bang for your buck with that $5 can possibly buy you. And so, anyway, that's just a little life tip. Is think about things like that. You want to be the person that people want to bring in. Oh, you know what? I'm going to bring in Cal because, like, you know what? With Cal, it's no nonsense. There's no like. There's not enough money, or there's no with Cal. With Cal, it's not like, oh, why is your gear such crap? You know, like with Cal, it's always just, yeah, I'll get this done for you, right? You want to be that kind of person. And so part of being good at that kind of thing, if you decide to make that goal for yourself too, that you're going to be that kind of person, you need to start practicing. You need to start practicing how to get things done within some limits, okay? And one of the ways that we try to do that is by planning time and budgeting time. Because, in the real world, people cost money, or at least their time costs money, and you budget for that, and you have to figure out how to get that done. So what you end up doing is you have to get really good at estimating how long it's going to take for something to get accomplished. You know, you look at a project and you say, okay, that's a 2-person job for 4 hours, right? 2 people could get that done in 4 hours, and you want to be pretty close at that. So what we have you guys do here at school is we have you do this in 2 phases. First of all, we have you sort of estimate how much time you're going to spend with people. And then we have you keep track of reality. And that gives you an opportunity to see, like, how close am I? Am I guessing accurately? Am I off consistently? And so this is just a little spreadsheet that I've made that does this for you. If you want to sort of like understand how I made this, you can, and I can sort of talk you through that. But basically, I've got 2 tabs here. One is called the call time menu, and the other is the person template. So the call time menu is just the list of call times in 30-minute increments. And you just put in the earliest time that you're ever going to have anybody in. So like right now, I've got it set to 9 a.m., but maybe say, well, we're never going to do anything before 10 a.m. So you can just put in 10 a.m., and it will automatically populate in 30-minute increments back around to 10 a.m. for a 24-hour period. So you just tell it when the day begins. For this show, or this project, the day begins at 9 a.m. Oops. What did I do wrong? There we go. And I just have this formula that just says takes time plus 30. So that creates that list. And then that list gets referenced here in these things. So we've got basically 3 slots every day. 3 calls possible every day. So you just kind of go in, and here's the person. You put in their budget, the number of hours that they're allowed to work every week. And this is your budget. And that's usually about 25 hours around here, because that's generally how many credit hours people are taking for their production class. So it's about 25. In the real world, people can work more hours than that. 40 hours is generally considered a full-time kind of like, you can work people that much. After that, it gets really expensive. So it's pretty simple. You just go ahead and you see a little drop-down menu pulls up, and it's just referencing that list from that other thing, and you just pull it up. Okay, all right, I'm going to bring everybody in at 10 a.m., and then we're going to work for 4 hours. So we'll end at 2. And it does the math and says, okay, that was a 4-hour call, and total that day is 4 hours because you're not using the other 2 calls. Okay? And you go in and say, all right, well, then I'm going to bring them back in at 4, and we'll go till 8. And it says, okay, well, that's 8 hours total of work, and you've given them a 2-hour break. It calculates the break for you. Okay, so you can kind of see how that works. You want to make sure you're giving people, time to eat and do things like that. So pretty straightforward. Now what'll happen is, let me go ahead and I'm going to just set my weekly budget here to 10 hours. And then I'm going to go in and set up another call here from 9 a.m. till 2 p.m. Now I'm at 8 hours on day 1, 5 hours on day 2, which is a total of 13 hours, which is more than 10, right? And because it's more than 10, it pops this up in red down here because I've exceeded that person's weekly time budget. Okay, so that's a heads up to you, like, hey, you've exceeded this person's hours, and you really want to try to avoid doing that, because in the real world, when you exceed the budgeted hours for somebody, you put somebody past. I mean, if you're able to work them full time, you can usually put them 40 hours in a week, and any time past that is considered overtime. And in most situations, overtime is more expensive than regular time. So that 41st hour is going to cost you more money than the 40th hour did. In most cases, it's called time and a half. So if you're paying them $20 an hour normally, you're going to end up paying them $30 an hour for every hour past 40 in a given week. So they're making their hourly rate times half, or plus half. And that gets really expensive really quick. And that's on purpose. Good managers will make it very, very costly for you to work people beyond that. Bad managers will make it very easy for you to work people beyond that 40 hours. So that's why that goes in. Now, sometimes it's inevitable, right? Sometimes you end up having to put people into overtime. And hopefully you'll budget for that. And one of the ways we kind of, in this spreadsheet helps you to do that, is it's calculating two totals here. It's calculating the actual weekly total, and it's calculating a running average per week. And every week you go down here, it is taking an average. So right now, the first week is 13 hours because I've only got 1 week counting in. But then I go down to the second week, and I don't have any hours booked that week, and so the average between 0 and 13 is 6. So it's going to keep a running average here of what is happening, how many hours per week this person is averaging. And my kind of rule of thumb is, as long as you're averaging out to their weekly budget, then you're probably not going to break the bank, even if you end up putting them to overtime every once in a while. Okay? Now, there are ways to game this spreadsheet, right? You could just add an extra dummy week that you know no one's going to work in, just so that you can put it in there and have it fix your averages. But that's kind of like, that's a good way to like hide the fact that you're not actually solving the problem. And that is not the kind of person that people want to work with. People don't want to work with the kind of person that is going to like cook the books to hide the fact that they're overworking people. That is not the kind of person that people are going to say, I really want to work, I want to work with that person again, because they're really nice and really honest and they treat me with respect. People are not going to say that about the person who cooks the books to hide the fact that they were working them overtime. So don't be that person. So a couple of other things to look at is you put the start date in here of what's the first day that that you're going to work on this thing. And so let's say we start this thing on April 1st. So I'll do 4/1/2023. All right, so it figures out, Excel knows, because I told it to figure this out, that April 1st, 2023 is a Saturday. So it starts week 1 on Saturday. If that's your first day, you're just gonna count your weeks as starting on Saturday. See how that works? And then each week begins on a Saturday after that. So you just put in that start date. Now maybe you're like, well, I really want to start on Mondays. Okay, well then let's start on April 3rd. And now that'll be your first day. Okay? If in it, and the template takes you up to 10 weeks, which hopefully is plenty for the projects that you're going to do here. If
I think it goes 11 weeks. You have 2 3s.
do I have 2 3s? Hey, look at that! I have 2 3s. I should make that be math so that it will auto increment that. Okay, well it's 11 then. Look at that. Good catch. So 11 weeks should be plenty for most of the stuff you're going to do here. And this is the file I want you to use here. You know, when you get out there somewhere else, they all have different ways that they want you to keep track of people's time, and you should use whatever they use. Jess?
Are we allowed to adjust it for how we like it, so like colors and text, if you want us to keep it how you have it?
Well, you can try to do that if you want. My only warning there is there's a lot of clever stuff going on inside this spreadsheet. And you could very easily break the clever stuff if you start messing around too much with this. Okay? So if you feel really comfortable with Excel and Excel formulas and Excel tables and you know, all that kind of stuff, then, you know, sure. But just heads up, you can very easily, the only really things you ought to be typing into are the person's name, their weekly budget, and the start date. Beyond that, you should just be clicking things on drop-down menus. And if you have more than one person, you can just duplicate this. So you just right-click on this tab and say move or copy, and say create a copy, and it makes another one. And that'll operate just like the other one. And you can just put a different person's name. So you can keep track of multiple people on this. So this is it's just a spreadsheet I made. Now your assignment is to, I'm gonna require, given that there's not the actual drawing and the actual creation of the document here is not very difficult, I'm gonna require a little bit of higher level thinking here. So here is an actual production schedule from probably the stage manager or the production manager. Production stage manager, it looks like. Put this together for the 2019 production of the Nutcracker here at School Dares, okay? And this is what they're saying. This is not uncommon, a not uncommon looking schedule that you might get from somebody. Now your job is to figure out, okay, well, I'm in charge of the sound crew, and I need to figure out what our timesheet looks like based on this. So you in this scenario, you are the A1, and you have an A2 on your crew. And I want you to look at this and figure out when you need to be there. Like, when do you and the A2 need to be there? So you make a timesheet for yourself and a timesheet for your A2, and you'll just work on the estimated side. The actual would come later, but for the estimated side, when do you think you're going to need to be there? And try to keep both of you within that 25 hours a week. See if you can pull that off. Think about what sort of compromises you might have to make to do that. So, you know, in high school, everyone wants to be there all the time, right? And that's just not practical in real life. Like, you can't just be at work all the time. And so the answer here is not, well, we'll just be here all the time. If anyone's there, we'll be there. It's like, well, you know, maybe not. Really think carefully about when do we need to be there? And when do you both need to be there? Like, is it the case that both of you would need to be there at all the same times? Or is there times you could stagger? Like, if all that needs to happen is somebody just needs to come turn stuff on, and then they're going to, like, warm up for 2 hours before they do anything else, great. Well, you both don't need to be there for that. Send one of you in to turn it on and then sit there, and then the other joins you 2 hours later, and then the next day you flip, you know? So there's little things you can think of like that to try to get this to work. So the really clever thing is an actual 25 hours a week. But if you can't hit that, you at least want to be averaging 25 hours a week from project start to project end for both of you. Okay. So this one is less about actually making a drawing and making it look nice as it is about just trying to interpret some data and make some decisions. Okay. But you can see that the actual spreadsheet is pretty easy. It's just you're dropping down, you're selecting stuff. Okay. Questions? Yes.
So this is only the tech schedule. Are we assuming that the system is already up and in and all of that stuff?
Yep. The only thing you're worrying about is this schedule. So you're assuming that if they're starting tech on December 7th, 2019, that you've already loaded the system in.
Okay, so
Right.
system's in and
Everything's in, ready to go.
and let's get this thing on the road.
Yeah.
Excellent.
Just day one of tech. You're starting with tech and everything, and you're assuming everything's fine. Okay. Yes, Jess.
We're also assuming that mics are already there, so would we have, is this our personal choice if we have to account for like testing mics beforehand, or do we just want to assume that?
So that's a good question. This is a ballet, which means there's not a lot of mics out there. It's mostly dancers. So there's probably going to be like a handheld mic, which that'll be used for choreographers and stuff like that. In fact, somewhere in here they might even say that. They've even say like, oh, sound's called at 12:30 or whatever, right? I think. Yeah, so there's probably there's going to be like a handheld mic that that a choreographer or a stage manager would use, kind of thing. And there'll be a cut once you get the orchestra in. There's like one or two mics in the pit on like the celeste and the harp or something, but beyond that, it's an acoustic orchestra. So it's not a huge system. Now during tech, you're going to be rehearsing to a recording, and then if somewhere in this schedule the orchestra shows up and they start playing live. But before that, you're playing to a CD, or it's QLab these days. But
And that is run by us?
Mhm.
Okay.
Yep.
Cool.
Yep. Yeah. So if
If we ask them to run a CD player or
Yeah.
often.
usually, so every once in a while, you get a stage manager that's like, I would love to run it. It's like, oh, okay.
I've had a couple of ASMs that are just need you taking line notes
Yeah.
otherwise, and they're like, yeah, I'll hit the
Yeah.
Very
The last show I did, actually, the stage manager was like, I'd really love to just operate it because we were doing tracks, and the stage manager knew the music really well, and like
Yeah, it's either that or they have to flick a
cue light, yeah.
cue light, yeah.
Yeah.
And
So
they have to do twice as much work to do that.
Yeah.
That's
so anyway, that's the goal is to go through this and figure this out. And this takes you all the way out through tech and run, and a little bit of loadout at the end of the last show. And if you want to, you can decide if you want to use that or not, or if you want to come in the next day. Generally speaking, I usually like to at least go and get the comm off the deck before scenery comes in and starts rolling heavy things all over everything. So you may want to like count a little bit of time at the end of that last day to just go and clear the deck of all the cables and comm and stuff that is, so that doesn't get munched. But everything else should be pretty straightforward. Any other questions?
I thought I just saw on like the last day there, just a bit higher, the technique class on stage.
Yep.
Lav mic.
Yep.
Is that just the VOG mic?
Yeah.
And they are pretending that we're going to give them a month for that. Okay.
Yeah, so I mean that you don't need to worry about the system on this, but it's like if they say like, oh, with the mic, that implies
Right,
that
someone needs to be
someone needs to be there to make sure that's working,
Okay.
right? it doesn't need both of you, but somebody needs to be there to turn that on and make sure that they can, because they're going to walk around the stage and take them through their warm up, and all the dancers need to be able to hear them. So, okay. All right. Any other questions? This one shouldn't be too hard. My advice is probably don't mess with the spreadsheet too much. Just, it works. If you want to figure out how it's working, by all means, go in there and look under the hood and figure out what I'm doing. But I know Seth's probably going to do that because I've converted Seth to Excel now.
I'm definitely going to try and break it.
Yeah.
To figure out how it works.
Yeah, I might look at formulas.
Although with this, you may have backed me into a corner because I've loaded it into Google Sheets, and
Crazy.
one of the formulas doesn't work.
Aha.
And so I'm either going to have to figure out how to fix it,
Yes.
or just do it. The problem is I'm going to lose the Excel file. Google Sheets, at least I know exactly where it is.
All right. So this will be what you work on this week, and then I just want you to just turn in the Excel file, okay? And we'll look at them together and see how you all solve this particular problem. And next week we will begin working on the final project, okay? So when you come next week, I will roll out the final project for you and talk you through that, and then at that point, that's all we're doing the rest of the semester. Is you come here and you work on that, and I help you if you need help. Get ready, it's a lot.